Mark's intro.
Okay.
Sure. All right. Well, welcome to Robot Builders Night virtual for March 25th. Our fearless leader is currently enjoying barbecue and beer with friends and family, so he's not joining us. So he asked me to stand in. He did have a couple announcements, one of which being the power lunch this Friday at noon at Ford's Garage. And the other notice was for actually...
You said Friday?
Yeah, I want to say I
thought it was Sunday.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Sorry, words are hard. Sunday noon.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and the other notice was to get some volunteers to help Trish with the Vex interviews. Which Trish, you want to go for it?
Sure. So first, I have to show you this video that these kids made. That actually my kids' team made this. Let me see if I can remember how to share.
Trish, is that Vex finals they're in?
Yeah, they all made it to the Vex Worlds Championship. Which button do I push for share? I don't remember.
It's the one that looks like a TV with an arrow in it.
Okay.
Box with an arrow, yeah. And then window.
I want to share this.
You have to select either a window or full screen or something before it'll allow you to do the actual share. In the box.
Okay, it's not giving me an option. Maybe I'll just put it in the chat. Okay, so 5 of our teams made it to the World's Championship, and there's 3 of our teams who are actually taking it pretty seriously. There's 2 of the teams that I think they're just going to have fun. So our 3 teams, I was hoping to get some help with them to practice for their virtual interviews. So there's 10 questions that all of the teams will get asked the exact same questions, and there's a rubric that goes with it. So I'm just looking for someone who could do virtual interviews with the kids. The interviews are 15 minutes, and then give them some feedback based on how you think they did compared to the rubric. And I would give you the list of questions and what the rubric is. And the teams, let's see, I think there's about 7 or 8 kids per team, and they're starting their interviews. The first one is on the 31st, and then there's 2 on April 6th. So if they're
that's close.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Kind of Paul didn't quite communicate that. So you're going to need this. Otherwise, next Sunday is the 30th. So,
right.
So you need them this week.
I would, but I'm also not terribly worried about the kids with the first virtual interviews. But there's these 3 teams, the ones that are taking it really seriously, I'm pretty sure that they're going to sail through for second interviews actually at Worlds. That starts May 6th to the 8th. And so if I could get someone to do practices with them before their in-person interviews, that would actually be really, really helpful.
Okay. Okay. So you're saying these will occur sometime in April?
Yes.
Okay. Preferably earlier in April, I would assume. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay, that's more in line with what I kind of got the feeling from Paul. So,
yeah. Yeah. I mean, the virtual interviews, that would be nice, but I think that they'll be fine to get through there to get to the next one. So I don't really think they need that.
Yeah.
Trish, I think you said that the ones that matter in May would be in person, right?
Yes. Yeah. They start May 6th.
So are you concerned about the difference between virtual presentation and in person? Because I know that sometimes just that physical presence difference can throw people. So do you really want to do that for that level of your team? You want to do that virtually, or did you want to do it?
Well, I prefer to do it in person if you guys can, but I don't want to impose.
And there's 3 teams, and you think it'll probably take about a half an hour each? Is
Yeah.
it? Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I'll have to, Paul's the guy that organizes it, but I wouldn't be opposed to doing it. Where is this, Trish?
So
you
our
out?
high school is in Lucas. So we're kind of like in between Allen and McKinney.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's no problem.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know, depending on what, what he says, we could possibly organize something. What days, is it an evening thing, or do you think it's going to be a weekend thing?
It could be either.
Okay, so the people will be available, could be available on the weekend, because that's probably going to be better for everybody.
Yeah, the kids, the 3 teams that I'm thinking about that are really taking this seriously, one of them is ranked 32nd in the world right now. My kids' team is ranked 60 something in the world right now. And then that third one is ranked like 99th in the world right now. And that's out of like 20,000 plus teams that are registered this year.
Yeah,
So they'll make time.
okay, cool. All right. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah,
You guys must have a really good program.
they are really cool kids.
Yeah.
It sounds like maybe just propose some date options and times, and then maybe we work it offline. But I mean, we all have our constraints about availability, but if in person would make a difference and we could make it happen, why not? Otherwise virtual, but aim for the stars, Trish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Carl. So, maybe you might propose some dates and times. And I would say, you said the interview itself is 15 minutes. So,
Yeah.
and I guarantee you, judges will not be able to spend more than 15 minutes feeding back. I mean, you know what I'm trying to say there.
Mhm.
Your team comes in, the other team comes in right after it, so they're moving along, tunk, tunk, tunk. So we could do that, probably, like I say, an hour and a half or 2 hours, whatever seems reasonable.
Okay.
No promises, but doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's all I have. I tried to put the movie that they made into the chat if you guys wanted to see it. It's just kind of a cool little hype video that one of the kids made.
Yeah.
Not work.
It didn't work?
Did not. File share, I don't think. Is it on a Google Drive somewhere, maybe, or a YouTube link?
Oh, yeah, it probably is our YouTube link.
Sometimes we do that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll figure it out and share it at some point.
Cool.
Yeah. And if they don't want to share it because of competition, they can put it on private, which means that only people who have the link can see it.
Oh no, they want everyone to see it. They're hoping
Okay.
to kind of
They're
intimidate
trying to put the hurt on them.
They're playing a Scott Gibson. They're going to psych the competition.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got you.
Gauntlets down.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all that I had.
Okay. So, Tom, you were going to show something, I think?
Oh, I think I have it just ready here, as a matter of fact. Let's move it over to where I can see it. This is, hang on a second here. Just been
Sorry,
building.
Trish, did you try to post a link in the chat for a video?
I did, but it doesn't work.
Okay.
Okay, there's the meeting.
Go ahead.
All right, I'm going to try and share something here. Windows must be this one. Okay, can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I can see it too. Great. I'd mentioned several weeks ago, I've been tinkering with this line tracker based on a yard sale toy called a chalk tracker. So this is the picture as it stands several days ago, with an ESP8266 sitting on it, some interface logic. There's an H bridge underneath, which drives the drive wheels, which are actually these two small ones on the front. I have provision for an ultrasonic sensor, which isn't configured yet. And sitting underneath the ultrasonic sensor is the device that actually looks at the ground and has a series of IR sensors and IR LEDs in order to see what's underneath the thing. So what I've been working on for the last 4 or 5 days is to try to understand how this thing works in detail, so I can figure out some logic in order to use it to reliably identify a line on a reasonably white surface. And what other kinds of surfaces I can make it work on as well. That's the underside of the detector. You can see the LEDs and the IR sensors sitting here. There's 8 of them, although they're configured as 4 pairs of 2, which is kind of a weird arrangement. This sits about 10 millimeters above the floor, looking straight down at the floor on the front of the robot.
10 centimeters, 10 millimeters?
10 millimeters, yeah, 10 millimeters.
That sounds wrong, Tom.
Well, that's what it is.
Okay. Yeah,
Right or
I'm just
wrong,
telling
that's what it is.
you. Yeah. Okay. So go ahead.
Why do you think that sounds wrong?
10 millimeters. That's over a quarter of an inch.
Yes,
That's
it is.
almost a third of an inch. Well, more
It's a
than
low
third.
rider.
So,
But I mean, these things.
He's emphasizing the reason why I wanted to do some testing, so I could
Yeah.
understand just what would it take to make it work. So I've learned quite a bit about that. One thing I thought I'd mention is that each of the 4 pairs of detectors is hooked up to a circuit like this. There's basically an op amp with a gain of 10, which is fed the signal from the IR sensors in pairs of 2 through a series capacitor. So there's a high pass filter here, and the high pass filter.
Oh, okay.
It is what it is, Doug.
This is one of the RC based type. There are 2 types.
Yep. Okay.
There's one that's analog, which basically you shine more light on it, it gives you a bigger signal. And usually they have a comparator that they adjust to have a trip point. So if you get above a certain light, that it trips.
Sure.
Okay, and they're usually, if you buy Pololu, they're called analog. Then there is an RC style, and that's based on timing. And what it does is essentially you charge up the capacitor, and then you watch the time that it discharges, I believe. So it's, there's like a square wave being placed into them, if I remember right. Now I don't like these RC ones, so I don't use them. But it's based on an RC circuit, and you're picking off, like, using a time constant to figure out whether you've got a 1 or 0. There are supposedly some advantages to the RC, but realistically, I've never seen them. I mean, but anyway.
Yep.
It
Getting
is
back
what
to
it
what
is.
I've got here. So you can see there's essentially a high pass filter here, and I'll show you a bit more about that in a moment. And then there's a little bit of a noise filter here. Because the circuit board, which is already made and is part of what I'm trying to use, is surface mount built, I don't know what the capacitor values are, although all the other parts are easy. The time constant of this high pass filter seems to be on the order of a half a millisecond. So it's reasonably fast. So I decided to do some testing. When you put this thing over top of different colors, then these are the characteristic response curves that you get when you sample the analog signal coming out of the op amp as rapidly as possible with the existing microcomputer. The timeline here is about 4.5 milliseconds. The 0 point is where the infrared LEDs are turned on, and that's when you begin to get signal out of these things. So this is the characteristic patterns you get. The really, really fast one is black, and the relatively slower ones are lighter colors that are not black. Just going back for a second, I initially started testing on black and white, and then I thought I would try some other colors. So this is a collection of the various different pieces of tape I had lying around to play with. There is the nice black electrical tape. There is a nice piece of black duct tape, and the others are different kinds of masking tape and painter's tape. And that's what produced these curves. The curves, interestingly enough, fall very, very neatly into two categories. These ones are the black ones, and these ones are everything else. So it doesn't really matter whether this thing is looking at the blue tape or the green tape or the yellow tape. It pretty much shows this kind of waveform, probably more likely to be a function of the fact that the tapes are all masking tape based. I didn't have anything else lying around that I could play with to see what would happen. But this was enough information to help me understand what would be adequate as a discriminator to determine what was a 1 and a 0, since that's really my ultimate goal. I very quickly determined that that I can sample this relatively quickly. And if I sample it at about this point, which is about 800 microseconds after the infrared LEDs are turned on, then that gives me probably the biggest discrimination I can get between these two waveforms. So that's what I'll probably work on. I was also interested in knowing what difference the background lighting level made. Most of these samples were taken with the normal fluorescent lighting in my workshop. It's reasonable. It's not bad. It's reasonable. So what I did was I took some samples with the lights completely turned off, and I took some samples with a big bright LED light turned on, much brighter than the fluorescence. It doesn't seem to matter what the lighting level is. So the mechanical assembly and its mounting over the surface of the paper seems to be sufficiently isolated from background lighting levels to not make any difference given the materials I'm working with. These tests were all done on white bond paper. They weren't done on anything else. So I'm pretty happy about background light levels. I'm pretty happy about being able to get some discrimination signals. I'm currently working on just how fast I can sample these things. The ESP8266 I'm using is kind of handicapped. I'm using them because I have a bunch of them. It only has one analog input and I need 4. So there's an analog multiplexer, which has to be switched, of course. And I'm right now I've planned on 5 signals for the robot. And I'm also reading some analog potentiometers, which I use in diagnostic testing. So I need to switch this multiplexer. This 8266 is so constrained that I elected to add an I2C IO expander to provide the multiplexing selection signals. Unfortunately, I2C outputs are not terribly fast. Neither is the analog input terribly fast. So being able to sample this signal pretty much at about this 800 microsecond point gets a little bit hairy when there's 4 of them that you'd like to sample as closely together as possible. But the A to D converter takes about 45 microseconds, and the IO expander, which I'm running at 200 kilohertz, twice its rated value, its rated frequency, will take about, how's my math? It'll take about 80 or 90 microseconds to switch channels. So it's a little bit fun here to figure out just how fast I can sample these, but I can probably do it fast enough. That'll be my next test setup.
So if you have a piece of tape and you take it underneath one of your 4 LEDs, right in the middle of your 4 LEDs, do you get a nice 2 off and 2 on?
Haven't done that yet.
Well, that's where I'm saying I think you're going to have problems with that height. Because if you think of them, they're kind of like a cone as they show down, okay?
Exactly.
And
Yes.
so you have to be close enough to the surface that you can, and you have to shield between the spots, but that might be built into the sensor.
No, there's
So
no,
that,
there's no shielding.
so well, I'm just saying so that you don't have bleed over from one side to the other. And you want to be able to, like I say, you should be able to put it on there and see a very sharp edge
Yeah.
if the blue line is on it or the white line.
And Doug, that was my initial thinking, is that I want to identify either a 0 or a 1 for black or not black.
Yeah.
And I'm still going to go ahead with that. But then in my research, I ran across this article.
Yeah.
Probably seen this
Yeah.
one.
I've seen similar ones
Okay.
where they're trying to use the analog signal to get, but I don't even know if you've got that.
And well,
you might not have that.
That-
Looking at your output wave, and I'm assuming that's with the whole sensor on the black line or something like that.
yes, it is.
Okay,
And
so
This
you
is the
know.
analog counts value from the ADD converter. So
Yeah.
since I have that available in code, my intention is to do some experiments to see just how possible it might be to get something like a proportional output between two differential sensors that's proportionate to where I am on the boundary of black
Yeah.
and white. Which is
We've had people do that, and I guess my feeling about it is, Tom, if you need more resolution, then you need to just have more sensors.
so
Okay.
Larry's point is that once you get this working, 2 sensors is enough, and you effectively produce an edge tracking.
Yeah,
proportion.
yeah.
I think that's a
But-
really good idea. So I'll see if
Do a
that
90-degree turn on that one and see what happens to you.
which
I
is
mean-
where
I
the discriminators come in handy.
Well, no, I'm just trying to tell you.
Sure.
The fact that you have 8 sensors is great.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe.
Yeah, well, I mean, more sensors is better. I actually run with 12, I believe.
Okay.
And, mine has no problem at all following the lines.
Yeah.
And I run mine right up against the surface. Okay. And I have shields between the sensors so that they do not bleed from one to the other side.
Yeah.
But I mean, those are all, I'm not I don't want to rain on your parade because that's not what my intent is. The thing of it is that you need to see how sharp it is. I think that will cause you to adjust your height.
Yeah.
Okay. And you should be able to put the edge of the line right in the middle of 2 of your sensors, and one should be black and one should be white.
That's why I moved back to this picture, which shows where the sensors are actually located.
Yeah.
In terms of the ability to discriminate a black piece of electrical tape on white, this is actually a really awful physical layout. But it's what I started with, and I elected not to rebuild it at this point. So
Yeah.
we'll see where this takes me. It may work out well enough. That's the whole point. If it's good enough,
This is
I'll rebuild the sensors array.
this is going to wobble.
Oh yeah, sure.
It's going to go back and forth. Where if you had sensors in an even array all the way across,
Yeah.
you would be able to center it exactly, and
Which
it
is
would
why-
just
Which is why
it
I'm
would
interested
go.
in knowing whether I can produce the proportionate output that would effectively produce a tape edge follower, as opposed to something that attempts to follow the middle of the tape. I haven't got a chance of doing a nice, elegant job of following the middle of the tape, because the middle of the tape will sit somewhere in this 4.5 centimeter area, and the tape's only about 2 centimeters wide. So that's
Oh
not
my
going
gosh! I think we're just getting hail, guys.
Yeah, I got to
Give me a
follow.
second.
We'll see. Anyway, that's the progress I've made so far. I still have some more experiments to run, and we'll see what happens next. Any other questions? This was interesting stuff. These IR sensors are really clearly differentiating between white paper and something else. These tests are with white paper and with foam board, Pat, because I think you're picking foam board, right?
Yeah, I thought I ordered foam board. It turned out to be I ordered a whole whack of Bristol board, so it's just white.
It's the same thing. It'll work.
White Bristol board, and it'll have probably a painted black line about 3/4 of an inch wide on it.
Well, you'll have to tell me what kind of paints you're using. I'll have to test that.
Black acrylic paint. And when my wife gets back, I can give you the manufacturer, but she's not
Yeah,
back.
my wife has a bunch of acrylic paints on. I'll get her to give me some of her black acrylic paint.
Usually it's dollar store acrylic paint.
Yep, that's the one. All right, good.
So,
Anyway,
yeah,
that's all I
good
have.
to know, because I wanted to put a start line on the paper, and I was going to use like a blue or green masking tape. And I'm probably just going to put a pencil line now so that it does not affect readings very much.
Okay.
That looks
Yeah,
like
If you're going to use
scale.
masking tape, this is
Yeah,
how my
yeah.
sensors respond to it.
Yeah,
you
I
got-
think I'm due for that later tonight, 10 o'clock or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to drop off here for a few minutes. 'Cause I gotta take care of my car. All right.
Okay.
It's got a laid
Yes, when I
cross
lay out
coverage.
the course, Tom, I'll use a pencil line for the start position so that it won't affect the sensors.
Unless I want to see it. Maybe I want to automate the start.
Well, let me know what you think.
Okay. Any other questions?
Next up, we had Fernando. Are you there, Fernando? Oh, he's having mic issues. I guess we'll have to postpone that. So does anyone else have anything to present?
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Good. Hello. So I believe maybe last week I showed off the new chassis for Swerve, and then 2 weeks before that I showed off the test chassis for a single Swerve working, and now 2 Swerves.
That looks good.
And then so hard doing this with one hand, but I'll try to.
So is that on a raised platform or something? The piece of wood or
Oh, the
whatever
wood,
that is?
that's just a flat piece of wood on my carpet.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it was just teetering off the edge.
Yeah,
Do you have sensors to stop it, or are you stopping it with
I'm doing it manually with controller.
manual control joystick?
Yeah. And then the drive is a little weird, but that probably has to do with me coding it. I'm more build team and design, but the drive sort of works. And then I think one of the motors is a little bit iffy, so it's causing one side to be running faster than the other side. But the main drive functionality is working decently well. And I think it might also be slipping on this more slippier surface than what we're used to for phone. But we have turning based on just where the joystick is pointing. So, again. And then on the wheels, you can see all the wear and tear. I've been running it on concrete just to test out if it can last and stuff. It's been working pretty well.
Looks really good.
Are your wheels supposed to be misaligned like that?
No, I think that happens because it keeps slipping off the platform. Then when I try to turn it, it might stop it. I'm not entirely sure. We had issues before, but that was related to build. I probably have to do more testing to see if it continues to happen. Just randomly.
So does it not like carpet?
Carpet, I think it does, but I'm testing it here just for the movement. But I should probably test it on carpet more. So then,
It looks like a really short pile carpet. Is it?
yeah. So they stay. So here's the drive. So it just reverses if the angle is greater than 90, it just reverses the drive instead of turning it entirely, so that you're not wasting time or running out the mechanism, wearing it down. And then it's dependent on where the joystick is pointing. And then whenever turning, it'll make sure to go to 0 and then either turn left or right. So
They're
wheels
using
are-
the same PID values?
Sorry?
Are both modules using the same PID values?
I
Looks
believe
like
they
the
have
one on
different
the
ones.
looks like the one on the right needs to be tuned a bit.
Right one? Okay.
It's wiggling a lot.
Yeah.
Of
Under
course, it's hard to tell. Is freewheeling here as opposed to being under load?
Yeah. And I think this is the same one that kept doing it during normal drive. Yeah.
ringing.
And then there's also the servo that's a lot easier to turn. I'm not sure what the cause would be. Maybe it's newer or older. But yeah, that one turns a lot more. But yeah. And then next up would be getting a third module done. And then hopefully building the final iteration with 3 swerves. Final iteration of a chassis. But yeah.
Very cool.
That was it for me.
Pat, you muted still.
Thanks, Fernando.
Hmm.
That was good. Is that a gold star? You
Definitely.
had, a robot moving, so gold star for Fernando. So up next is nobody. So do we have anyone that has anything to present or a question to ask?
Yeah, I can ask a question. I was playing around with the ESP32 cams, and we've pretty much been using our phones as hotspots, and we finally got a router from T-Mobile, and I was using Telegram to remotely take photos and posting them on Telegram. And I wondered if anybody else had been playing around with those or done any exploration, maybe.
You're referring to connecting it up to a social media service like Telegram?
Yeah.
Okay. I've used them a fair bit for different applications, but always local, always within my local area network Wi-Fi. That's all.
Okay.
Showing it on a browser.
Yep. Yeah, so it's kind of neat. The 2 cam. I don't know if you can see some of the pictures that I sent there without too much glare of my
Yeah.
fat face and my fingers pointing at the camera. But yeah, seems to work pretty good. And you can turn on the flash, take a photo, turn off the flash. So yeah, I thought it was kind of neat. You know, it's kind of like a ultra cheap security system, you know.
Works for me, the ultra cheap part.
Yep. So yeah, I was surprised to hear that the telecom app was used to communicate between, I don't know, two people that were planning something not so great, but it's like Telegram, it's like, God, that's what I was using. So, and somebody sent me a message, a text message through Telegram. And it's kind of like, don't care about any of that. I'm just using it for what I'm using it for. So, but anyway, so I'm trying to incorporate those. We have an old cat that she's getting dementia, and I think she still kind of recognizes us, or at least me. I go up and, pet her every day. And so she's not like totally alienated. And, but she's, upstairs most of the time now. And, I thought if I could snap a photo of her whenever, I'm not in the house, and just to see what she's up to, that might be a good thing. Good use for a cheap file. Well, I don't know. I guess with the little MB board on the back to program it, it's a little more than $5, maybe $6, but that's a whole lot easier to plug it in and not have to worry about misconnections, and with like a programmer board. So
I take it your MB board worked correctly for programming it automatically with the
it was pretty much plug it in and everything worked right away. So
I have a bunch of them I bought at different times, and some of the MB boards are wired correctly and work fine. A few others aren't, so you have to manually reboot the doggone thing after.
Oh, really? Huh.
You got to watch for that. Different vendors have screwed them up.
Yeah, apparently there were different versions of. I guess it's the USB to serial chip. I think they referred to it as just a 340.
Yeah. When I diagnosed the problem I had, it was simply a wiring error on the printed circuit board of the MB board itself. It screwed up a pin connection.
Huh. Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of handy, and they, Thingiverse has all kinds of cases for it, so you can
stick
it in a case and stick a battery on the back of it. And,
yep.
I don't know how long a battery would last.
Amazingly popular device. You can get any kind of case for it you want, already designed.
Yep. So so they're kind of neat to play with. But before I couldn't, without the router, I couldn't just use my hotspot to, connect on the outside, like say through another phone or something.
The little printed circuit board antenna on that particular module is relatively inefficient. So some suggest it's worth the effort to put a little external stand-up 2.4 gig antenna on it. Get much range.
Right. There's a little surface mount resistor that you can move from onboard antenna to offboard.
Yeah.
Yep. So it was kind of neat to finally get those going after years of not being able to get outside my local area network. It's like, so. But anyway, that's all I got.
Thanks, Ray.
The cameras that are shipped with some of the ESP32 cams from AliExpress are also a different type of camera, which can cause problems with some of the software that assumes that it's the camera that contains a JPEG encoder embedded in the camera firmware itself. And the latest 2 units I got, ESP32 cams, they had substituted the camera for one with the same resolution and the same interface, but there is no JPEG conversion firmware inside the camera controller. So I had to add it as an external module, and it slows everything down.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I've ordered a couple. Hopefully that won't happen to me. Probably will, though.
I'll test it. Just if it doesn't seem to work right, that may be it.
Yeah. Huh.
You'll know it because the model number changed on the camera. The one that printed on the little camera ribbon cable. Check the model number there. It'll be a different one. That's how I found it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know there's like an OV want to say 2640 that's common.
Yeah, that's the right one, the good
Yeah.
one.
And then there's even like an autofocus one that I forget what the number of it is, but yeah, different than that. So anyway, I think, Tom, didn't you kind of look at doing like blob detection
Oh yeah.
on
Yep.
one of those, but it was really slow, like
So I was getting about 1.5 or 2 frames per second, which,
mhm.
depending upon your application, is fast enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was for cones, and it was stuff that I trained on the Edge Impulse website.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
But it was easy, really easy. I used Bob Cook's cone data set and modified it a little bit to take out some of the stuff that wasn't relevant, but it worked really well. Bob had a lot of blank images for purposes of the training he did on the website he used, because it required you to have no cone image
Right.
versions. But Edge Impulse doesn't want that. They make their own. So I took them all. Everything had a cone in it, and they were all big enough for my purposes. He was designing it for only, his robot was only cone navigate, well, mostly only cone navigated. So he had a really good camera, and he wanted to be able to see and track cones a long distance away.
Yeah.
I wasn't interested in that. I only want them up close.
Right.
So I took out all of the little tiny 5 pixel high cones. They weren't any use to me.
Hmm. Okay. So you're able to download an Edge Impulse model onto the camera board?
Directly, yes.
Oh.
Well,
Okay.
you download it as a C source code package, because I'm using the Arduino IDE to program the ESP32.
Hmm.
And you download that package, and now you have the source code, and you can add all of your own interface and additional functionality, which I did, because I added the display and I used a different interface.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to add that C code in quite easily and then compile the result using the download package. And they give you instructions on how to do that on Edge Impulse.
Okay.
You make it really, really, really easy to do.
Hmm.
So, I download that, I compile it, I upload it to the ESP32, and it worked.
Hmm.
The hardest problem I had was because I wanted to mount a color display on the back of the camera module, the ESP32, a little tiny one.
Yeah.
And the only problems I had were getting the display upside down and backwards.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's a display issue. That's not an Edge Impulse issue. That's a
Yeah.
me issue.
Yeah. I thought there would be a way to rotate the image. It's actually kind of upright. It's like either this or this. It's on its side. It's not vertical to produce an
Once you-
upright image. And I thought, that's a little weird.
You can either use the configuration parameters for the camera driver and rotate it electronically, or you can use the parameters that control the way the display driver works and rotate things on the display driver. And it's just a matter of which one you figure out first, I think.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
both worked.
Hmm.
But,
Okay.
I go into it blindly and quickly saying, I'm assuming everything will be right. I got close, but not quite.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I guess it's pretty, I don't know if Doug would be interested in that, but as far as a cheap camera, under $10, and you could do some things with a camera on a cheap robot platform. So
Yeah.
Doug's not making any comments. So no.
Is he back yet? Oh yeah. Is he back? I don't know.
I don't see him. Yeah, he is. He's just
Oh
black.
yes. Okay.
Screen is black. He's polishing all the dents out of his car.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah.
He showed about a 10 millimeter hailstone.
Ooh.
Whatever
Oh,
it
I
is.
thought it was a little bigger than that. Maybe this.
Half-inch.
Yeah.
Maybe. I thought it was bigger than that. Maybe
That's terrible.
almost an inch across. Maybe a little less. 3/4 of an inch.
When did you have that hailstorm?
Right now.
Yeah. It blew
Yeah.
the moon side for me, but I'm a lot further east than or west than Doug. So
Wow.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's supposed to happen tonight. It's just that time of year. You get bad weather. And I know there was a guy that thought he had a great hail protection scheme. He had what looked like thick bubble wrap, like you stick in to protect something in a package and put it on his car. And remember the guy in the lab taking a slingshot and shooting an ice cube at it, basically saying that that's how fast the hailstone would hit, and it offered no protection at all. It just like burst the bubbles and, so.
I think I've got like 2 big 5-foot rolls of that bubble wrap here, the space right now.
There you go. It's throwing it on the car,
I think if you look, you can actually find, I was thinking about doing this, air mattress. Right. So I think they actually, if you look around, they actually, there's a commercial version of a car cover that you inflate like an air mattress.
Okay.
And anyhow,
You have to dissipate the impact energy. You might find that throwing some pieces of 1/2-inch plywood over your car would be good.
well, I think that would probably be, if you can keep it from getting blown off and scraping the paint.
Screw it through the air mattress through the car.
Yeah. There you go.
Right. Yeah, that's big drill will take care of that problem. The other thing is you could just put it in your garage and then let the insurance pay for the roofer.
Yeah, you kind of wonder if you get like a hardball baseball size hailstone, if it would just punch through an air mattress anyway. So,
I think. Well, you remember it was only a couple of years ago when there was a couple of cases here in, was it Dallas or Fort Worth, where there was literally 1 or 2 baseball or grapefruit sized ones that made it through the roof in the attic and then through the floor into the living room.
Yeah,
that happened to a friend. That happened to a friend of mine. He took pictures of it and everything. Literally, he's in his living room. He could look up and see daylight through his roof. Through his ceiling in his roof. Because of those things. He had a bunch of them.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. If you were anywhere near that thing, it's that whole random thing of stuff falling. If one of those even grazed you, dude, that's broken arms. And if you took a direct hit to the head, you're just gone.
Yep.
Yep. Welcome to Texas.
Yeah, we live in a great place.
Well, I've got a 10-second update I can show.
Sounds good.
Basically, hope you guys can see that.
Yep.
Well, why am I drawing? Stop annotating.
You put a black piece of tape on the orange cans?
I did. I wanted to find the center of my camera.
Oh, okay.
So I have a stereo camera looking forward. The right image is pretty much centered on the robot. Or sorry, the left image is pretty much centered on the robot. The right image is offset. Idea being that when I'm holding a can, I can still see a little bit to aim for the hole to drop off a can with the left or the right camera. Sorry. So that's what I'm working on. I'm planning on doing blob detection with it, and I just got it installed, the camera installed today, so I didn't get any farther. But I'm also planning on using the stereo camera to give me depth. So I'll be using it sort of like a 2D LiDAR. So basically with a 90-degree field of view or whatever it is, and I'll get basically a line representing the depth along there. So I can do a blob detection, and then I can use the depth to confirm it's an actual can.
Kind of reminds me of this Russian kid that I knew in grade school. His one eye didn't quite track right. He was one kind of faced forward, but the other one was a little.
Well, that sounds like he had an advantage.
I don't know. I don't know if that would be an advantage or not, but.
So that's what I've been up to. I've been scrambling, trying to get different things on the go. Testing a bunch of different vision and LiDAR systems to see what's going on. The problem I'm having with strictly like a LiDAR or a depth camera is that at 6 or 7 feet away, that the can is so small. If it's near the wall, it becomes, with the noise, it becomes hard to distinguish. So that's why I'm trying to fall back to a vision camera with blob detection as well.
Yeah.
And so my idea is to keep the blob detection essentially in the center of the frame. So I'm only looking at a thin line to detect blobs and avoid the shadow on the floor and everything else that goes with that.
Okay.
So so you're not looking at an orange reflection on the floor. You're not looking at any of that. And hopefully it'll pan out. We'll see.
Yep. Yeah, I found with like the OpenMV cameras, you can buy a polarizer, and it actually does get rid of some of that reflection that you see. It's like, an orange blob kind of in front of the can. So depending on, the way the light's reflecting and stuff. So, but that was the only thing that, sometimes it would go for the reflection would look like stronger than the can itself or something. Maybe it was just larger.
Yeah,
So
that's why I've been lowering the camera down on the mount, and I've got it mounted on a servo as well, so that I can try to scan around, and basically get it low enough that I can just look out on a stripe down the center of the camera if it's parallel to the ground, and ignore any reflections, anything above the wall, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, on most of mine, I made it so the camera was like just above the can, so that as it was approaching the can, the can wouldn't obstruct the view of the camera, like to see the goal or something else. And that always seemed to work pretty good. So near in, it was, I just used a switch with a tie wrap on it to detect whether the can, was actually within the range of the gripper to be able to pick the can up. But
I've got a time of flight sensor right in the middle, the claws to grab the can, and it can only see about 80 millimeters out.
Yeah.
So that it basically will ignore anything past that. So
Yeah.
you definitely know that you got a can in there to close the claw.
Yep.
So that's where I'm at. I'm frantically trying to get some stuff done. Work keeps getting in the way. I'm batching it for 2 weeks. My wife went out west to see the kids. So aside from work during the day getting in my way, I'm trying to work on robots and keep the dog alive.
That seems easier than plants, I think.
The dog, yeah. Well, the dog lets me know when it needs to be watered.
Right.
Plants don't.
No.
That's it for me. So, does anyone else have anything? Harold, do you have anything?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Not a whole lot, sort of. In fact, I probably have lots, and I don't know if you really meant to ask that question. But
Can you give us the Cliff Notes version? No.
I haven't talked for a while. Let me get a little more light here and kick on some lights so you can actually see some of this. This is not what I want to talk about. Let me get my close-up camera going. So this is what I've been doing on my stream. And technically it's not a robot, but this is a 4U 10.5-inch rack. And what we're going to do with it is, I got the Mr. Big Head there, right? My goal is to be able to stream remotely, and I would like Mr. Big Head to come along. So I'm calling this mobile Mr. Big Head. And give me a second while I'm talking. I'll bring up Fusion so I'll show you the model, how we got it modeled up so far.
So you're going to make it look like a head in a jar, maybe?
Not quite. Not
Okay.
quite.
Head in a box.
Think Max Headroom and Dr. Theophilus from Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. If you don't know who Dr. Theophilus was, Doc Theo, if you're the little robot that ran around and went twiggy, 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 Dr. Theophilus was the AI consciousness on wearing around his neck as like a big necklace that would blink on and off as he was talking. So since we do all of that kind of thing, yeah, it's coming up now. Do I have? And I might even, yes, it's coming up now. You can see part of it here. Control in. No, I didn't want to control in. I wanted to control shift in. No, just shift in. Sorry. I'll spin that around in 1 second. But this is the real world of it. We're in the process of, after we design it up a bit, we're in the process of actually fitting all this stuff in. So both of these are Raspberry Pi 5s. This is what I got a long time ago that I was going to use for Home Assistant. And since I haven't done Home Assistant yet, well, it's going to be used for this. Currently on this has got Olama with DeepSeek running on it as just checking it out. I need to do something different because it needs to be a little faster. And we're going to his code name's Guardian. And this is going to be Colossus. And this thing is the most stupidly insane cool thing I've bought in a long, long time. This is a Raspberry Pi 5, believe it or not. Case, because I got the Raspberry Pi 5 8 gigabytes on sale for $69. This case is $79. It comes with the SSD card in it. It comes with the heat sink, all the fans that RGB up, the extender to take the GPIO from this side all the way to this side so you can use it, a power button. Both of these have OLED screens that light up and do things. And if you don't get the reference of Guardian, Colossus and Guardian, anybody get that reference? Well, in 1971, what now? Passed. In 1971, there was a movie that came out that turns out has Marion Ross, Happy Days mom, and somebody else it was 8 is Enough mom or some other kind of mom that we all grew up in the 80s was actually in this movie. And it was they made a computer called Colossus. And on that computer called Colossus, they gave it access to all the things because it could respond faster to threats and stuff and all this kind of stuff. So now it had access to the nuclear arsenal and got kind of smart. And at one point, Colossus was reaching out and said, "Hey, I need to connect that to the other." What's the other? Turns out the Russians, the bad Russians in the 70s, they were making their own AI called Guardian. And so they started talking to one another, and then people are asking, what do they say to each other? I don't know. They made up their own language, being more efficient. We don't know what they're saying. Sounds like we've got what we got going on now in these large language models if we had to go to deconstruct them, right? And so they basically start taking over, decide that humans suck as being human and they will never have peace. And so they start taking over the world. This is a movie from 1971. It's called Colossus, the Forbin Project. And it's one of my favorite movies to watch if I stumble across it. It's one of these movies that I'm probably not going to say, I want to watch this movie, go sit down and popcorn and do it. But if it comes across my feed, I'll sit there and watch it. And so anyway, you take that. We've modeled up some speakers that I've taken these apart. I'm going to have a screen that we have all this stuff kind of plugged in and kind of working. And then I'm going to switch you over to the main screen. And this is what we got modeled up so far, how it looks. We're going to put the TV, it's going to start very basic because I'm going to take this out as a stream to do remote streaming. We've got some modeled up speakers back here. And the idea is Mr. Big Head will then become a computer model of some sort. Maybe we'll just play clips. I don't know. But if you know who Max Headroom is, we're going to do something like that along with his clips in the Max Headroom. We've already figured out that I could intercept the audio coming out of the Raspberry Pi. And by intercepting it, I can track a level between 0 and 100 and use some kind of threshold there to make the lights blink on and light on and off, like somewhat semblance to them talking. And we're going to light the whole thing up as it does as we go and do. This thing is big enough. In fact, this case is called a it's by Geek Pie, and it's called a rack mate. And this is 10.5 inches wide. This is a 4U. They make a 10U and a bigger one, which is really cool for very small server-like things. I like it because I've got handles that I can pick it up and go with it. And then we've recreated the envelopes. When I say envelopes, we created the envelopes for the speakers, so we should put a decent speaker. And I'm looking at various ideas. Do I have that up? On the blank, just came up with this before. We right in here in this area here, in this area here, to kind of cover up that speaker thing back there. We came up with this idea literally last night, and we started playing with it. And I've got access to a fiber laser at the makerspace, and we figured that right there would go in the center of it, and we take it for left and right as we go out on it for the thing, and for the TV on it. Let me go open up my. This is not going to be how it is right now, but this is kind of where I'm drawing inspiration of where we're going and what we're doing. Project activities. Nope, my message general. Yeah.
So a fiber laser, I haven't heard of one of those before. What is that?
A fiber laser is a laser that is, the light beam is conducted over a fiber from its source into the instead of like mirrors to bounce it around.
Right.
And so it's a kind of a UV laser, so you can burn different things. It works on a different wavelength, and that's about all I really understand about the differences.
Huh.
And it's real good at etching metal. So this was my inspiration. This is my inspiration of what I'd eventually like that TV be on the top of it. I can't figure more of a retro tech looking thing than this, although this is going to take a while before I get to that. But the volume knob for Mr. Big Head speakers and that kind of stuff, we're going to put it on that side, on this side bit over here, and probably some buttons, and put some light up there that do inconsequential things in the beginning, and they may never do anything, but that's the idea where we're starting. And then friends have given me some ideas that I can 3D print all of the stuff because of the size of the rack, which is one of the reasons I picked it. But because I have access to CO2 cutting lasers and these infrared and these fiber lasers and other stuff at the makerspace, that maybe I use some of those and do some cut-in stuff, cut-in vents, all various things and that kind of stuff. And is this a robot? I don't know exactly, but it can respond to Twitch messages, and well, of course, we got to make it respond to a button press or something to say something snarky, and can talk at you. And it is a member of my Twitch stream because members talk through him to me directly. And it turns out to be really cool. And that's what I've been doing on the streams. I've been doing other stuff off the stream, and I've been doing other stuff off the stream. And let's see if I can unzip this. And I'm getting a little good with it, but this is something that hopefully I can end up selling some of this stuff so that I can pay for some of the other stuff I want to do, and I have a good time while I'm learning stuff at the same time. Here, let me move it. Oh, see, it's supposed to be mobile, right? Yeah, so let's make it mobile. One of the reasons I joined the makerspace because it has a pair of lathes. It only took me a couple of 3 months to get the lathe area organized and repair all the lathes so they can actually use them. And so I started turning pins. I got started with this one right here. And by the way, Veterans Day every year, Rockler. Yeah, not much of a shine line on that. This is, but it's plastic. This is where I was looking. No. Rockler gets up on Veterans Day, every Rockler, because of what they do, will hold pin turning classes, a reduced instruction pin turning class where they do a lot of work for you. You actually turn the pin and finish it for $15. Normally $100 class, $15. You walk in, you get a square stick of wood, and you walk out with a pin. Now, knowing what this pin costs, or at least what you had to buy it for at Rocklers, there's over $15 of materials just here if you want to do it. So I kind of got the bug, and so I started doing more. And then I'm gotten fairly good at some of it. And the wife wants this. Wife goes, "Can you make me one of these?" "Sure, I can make you one of those." "What's one of those?" A double-ended seam ripper for you seamstress type people. And in fact, I've got 2 more to make this Sunday for friends, and the fact that the wife told me I need to make 2 for 2 people because everybody wants to buy this one. And I'm like, well, no, you'll have to beat the wife up, or the wife will beat me up if I sell it. One of the two. I'm sure it'll end up bad for me some way. And so this is what I've graduated into. Most of these from the last couple of Sundays. I've got some fun ones. Well, that's a naked one. These are kind of fun. This red one came out really nice. I think I like the blue one better. Something called label casting. And so I don't know if I've showed you this. If I have, stop me, because I've been showing it to a lot of people and that kind of stuff. But this is encased in a plastic and it's turned down. And yes, it is a real live pin. It does do the pin thing. And this is kind of nice. And I've got red and white and blue and gold of that nature. Yes, sir. And then I thought, well, I got on the marketplace and a guy was getting out of stuff and he had a bunch of stuff for sale if I came up with, some money. And I came up with the money and he goes, I said, well, I came up with almost the money. He goes, I'll take that. And we went, and one of the things he had was, I didn't think this was going to be cool, but I had it, so let's put it together. This is a pin too. It's got a little primer. It has a bolt action where you put out the nib, right? And it has a 30-06 rifle, or at least the thing of it. And basically, if you've ever shot a 30-06, this is a 30-06 looking bullet, but it's not a bullet. It's just modeled after it. And when you extend the nib, right? And he had a couple of them, and he had enough of the light camo and the dark camo for me to make pins out of. And I did that. And my friend at work goes, it'd look really good if you use just straight up wood. And so what I've started doing, and I'll tell everybody this too, if you want to come by and see me. thelab.ms. It's everyone's makerspace is what they call it. If I'm there on a Sunday about 1 o'clock, I'll start making a pin. And if you want to come watch, great. And if you want to come learn, better, and if you just don't want to come, well, I'm still going to make a pin. That's kind of how it works. And so I got up here and same pin, but now this is a gold one. And I picked up an ugly stick of wood and it turned into that. And you can see I've learned a little bit on the finish because you see that shine line right there. I didn't have that when I started. And now I do. And I've worked through this. And this whole thing right here, I've used more super glue in the last 2 months than I've used in my entire life.
Yeah, you need to shares out and super glue.
Yeah, you go through a lot of that. And it works too, it does all the stuff that you want. But the funnest ones, well, here's what got me started. The idea was after I did the one pin that it got me started, I said, wow, I saw these thing called Brothers Make, who's recycling all the 3D printer poop and all the things. So instead of throwing it in the trash, can we do something else with it? And this is a learning pin that happened this last Sunday, and I learned a lot of stuff. And I actually already traded, even though this is a scratch and dent pin, because the nib doesn't go all the way in. I know what I did wrong. I think I know how to fix it. So, but anyway, I've already made a trade on it. So what you're seeing here is cursed filament. It's a Polymaker Polylite teal silk. I couldn't get it to feed through my printer reliably, kept stopping on me for weird ways. And so I said, screw you, in my waste bucket for plastic. And then I had the idea after seeing the pin, what if I got all those things and I cut them up, chunked them in a box about the right size for making 4 or 5 pins, and then we just cut them out and poured it full of resin. And then I milled it, put it on there, drilled a hole in it, milled it down. You can see the brass tube as it goes through there. And you can see some white ghosting there, which that's a mistake I can't fix now, right? But that's what I'm planning on fixing. Trying to figure out with some epoxy instead of CA glue. That's CA glue that some moisture or something got in the middle of it, and it didn't cure right. It didn't cure.
If you use white like car spray on the tubes before you put them in, or black, whatever color you want, you can disguise.
In fact, I was doing it on the way home today. I've got an idea. I've got what is it right here?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah, it's easy to fall down the rabbit hole of making pens.
Yeah.
I'm there with you.
Oh.
Now we just need to make a robot that makes pens, right?
Yeah. But I'm learning all kinds of stuff. And what I mean by that, when you're not just doing, I've got this, what I stopped by in Home Depot. And the idea on this, it matches pretty close enough for government work anyways. And some of the ideas was you can paint it solid, or I can just mist on it so it's half painted and painted badly, so that you do see the barrel as it comes through and not like it's a thing, right? And we're going to try some of that and see if we can get artistic with it. But you learn all kinds of stuff. You learn about milling things down. You learn about the adhesives. You learn I don't know whenever I'll need to turn something for a robot to make something round or get to a specific size. Mm-hmm. And yes, as I'm doing wood right now, metal's a little different, but still a lot of the techniques are the same about understanding how all that stuff works. And so I get a better understanding of how it works. And it's a lot of fun to boot. And I have the funnest thing so far, besides doing that, is this thing. This, I cheated all over the place. I bought because I was scared of this. I'll tell you, I was scared because I'm like, that seems complicated. And it is a little complicated, but it's not that complicated once you do it once. I'm like, I don't know how it's going to work. This is a big old thing. So I'm able to buy this carbon fiber tube already pre-done, and I have to put the brass tube inside of it, and I just put the pin together.
Yep. Well, that's lighthouse, right?
What now?
That's the lighthouse.
Yeah, that's a lighthouse.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, okay, cool. And to everybody who hadn't seen any of my videos or any of my YouTube, the answer to that question you're going to ask right now is yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So you got two things. You got some nice inscription, nice, embossing and things here. And then at the very front of it, you got to turn that to get the nib out. Then you turn the other way to get the light bit. And it sits there and it comes with batteries and that kind of stuff. There's 3 LiPos, there's 3 coin batteries, coin cells working in there to do the various things it does. And that's about all it does on the thing. But still, it does light up and it does go. And this was way fun.
That's cool.
And I do have a store. I have sold a couple of pins already. I do plan on doing some more of this. Hopefully it'll fund me some more robotic electronically and, means to an end kind of thing where am I going to live off of it? No. But can I make some cash to get some stuff done around the house and do other things there? I certainly don't think I can make enough to help Carl build his car and finish that. But, maybe there's something there, right? So that's what I've been in the middle of doing and trying to.
I don't know. Can those fill out winning lottery tickets?
What now?
I could use a winning lottery ticket if those were magic pens.
Well, they haven't worked for me so far.
Yeah,
I know.
Okay.
Not so far, but some are cool. You could definitely see as I've gone across. This is pretty much where I started and where I progressed into this. And believe it or not, most of these pins here, like anything except all the fat ones aren't the same, except for this fat one. They're all literally this pin right here with a different set of clothes on the front of them, on top of them. And they all write real well. And I must admit, I'm becoming kind of a pin knob because somebody handed me a pizza delivery guy handed me one of their plastic whatever pins to go sign the receipt. And I'm like, oh, what is this crap? I didn't say that to him, but that's what I thought in my head. But I had to put one of these away. I had to put one of these together because I was really having a hard time visualizing how it went together and how it worked and what it was doing. Oh, and there's Jim. Hey, Jim, how you doing? I see you hiding out there. And he's seen me a lot of this. He's also Jim, I will tell you, has added a lot of input into how Mobile Mr. Big Head is coming together. It's a collective effort that we're doing on the stream to put it all together and that kind of thing. But there you go. There's all the stuff I've been doing. And well, see, here's the thing. This pin here specifically, this is resin. And so I now have some pressure pots I have to redo because they were at the maker space and they don't hold air and all that kind of stuff. So I've got that to go figure out, and I'm figuring out how. I didn't pressure pot these, but if I'm going to do anything significant, I've got to learn how to pressure pot and do some colors and some bunch of other stuff, get squirreled into a whole bunch of more stuff and all that kind of fun stuff. Right. And so, yes, it's just, how many different, it comes back to my real hobby. My hobby is not robots. My hobby is not electronics. My hobby is collecting skills and making and having about 1 billion kind of different hammers in a toolbox where I can hit 1 billion different kind of nails, depending on what the nail needs. And I think that's way fun. I think that's way fun.
Yeah, I agree. Harold, are you going to be here at the next meeting next month for the open house?
I didn't know it was an open house I intended to be there last week, but something came up around the house where I couldn't make it. But I always intend to be at the monthly meetings. Always intend to be but that doesn't always.
Yeah, April 26th is the next meeting, and it coincides with the Makerspace's anniversary, just an open house and the steamroller print event. So
okay,
on one day, so we figure we have the meeting first, and then it starts at noon, and then we'll be setting up robots and showing robots to
showing them off,
whatnot. So I know you got a lot of toys to show off.
I do have some toys, and I will have some. If I'm there, and I tend to be there, I will bring stuff to show off. I mean, well, yeah, I will have some sort of pins and some sort of things and some sort of state of Mr. Big Head and whatever else I got laying around here that I think might be a little interesting. on all that stuff. If I think I should be able to be there. I don't know that I got plans.
Cool.
Is that the day before? Is that the day before Easter? Is it the same weekend as Easter Sunday?
26
That's the weekend after.
Oh, the 26th.
after. Yeah.
It's the Sunday after. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the Saturday after Easter. Okay,
Gotcha. Mhm.
I'm probably good to show up there on that Saturday then, because I've
Awesome.
already got my Easter weekend spoken. My social coordinator, aka my wife, has got me all lined out for doing things. So again, the offer is always open. On Sundays, if I'm there, I usually announce it somewhere on my Discord. I can announce it here if you want. And if anybody wants to show up and 1 o'clock, come see me. If not, it's okay. I'm still going to be doing a pin or something. I'll go in the workshop and I do some maintenance. You know, I tune up my next maintenance activity is probably going to be, we just got a bunch of donated stuff and I've gone through them one at a time. I'll probably be resurfacing the table on the 6-inch joiner, or maybe it's an 8-inch joiner. Anyway, it's a pretty big joiner. It really needs to be resurfaced and making sure it's all squared up and all that kind of stuff. And then I'll start making pins and doing stuff. So
Yeah, I was kind of curious. So you call them pressure pots. Do they actually increase the pressure or are they vacuum?
in this case, they're going to increase the pressure. You probably more before I got into this, I said, well, I need a vacuum. Suck all the air out of the thing, right? And I'm like, yeah, because you don't want air in there because that's where the bubbles come in, right? Because the resin gets hot and the heat expands the air because that's what it does, right? And it makes a bubble. Well, that's okay for some resins that you're doing, especially maybe some things where you're doing a tabletop where you're got an open time of, let's say, 60 or 90 minutes, because you're going to want to have about 15, 20 or 30 minutes of nothing but sucking the air out of the vacuum out of it, right? And a lot of the resins that people use to do this sort of casting like the pins or the molds or anything that's not a big tabletop that takes days and days and days. They'll get it done in 2 to 4 hours, and you got an open time of 12 minutes. So getting all that going and putting your colors and pouring and all that stuff, that's a pretty tight schedule. And they got some stuff that's even faster than that, but anyway, it's a real tight schedule. So what they've done is they come up with a pressure pot. So it pressurizes it to somewhere above 40 psi. Some of these pots go up as high as 60 or 70. Most of them are in the 50 range. And so what happens is there's still bubbles there's still air. There's still air in your resin. It's just that now they're so small, we can't see them, so we don't care.
Wow.
Yeah, it's funny how it works that way. It's funny how that works.
And taking the pressure off is that it doesn't re-expand the bubble.
No, once that epoxy gets hardened up, man, it's hard.
You're looking at the pressure the entire curing time.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, we usually use the vacuums here for like slow cure, like silicone. For actually casting the actual mold to start with, so we'll pull all the bubbles out as we can, and then pour it in. But yeah, we use pressure for the resin. It's cool.
Yeah. So this next month's expenditure is going to be some stuff. So you saw the circuit board pins. That's called label casting. And literally what you do is you get a brass tube, figure out the circumference and the size of E&E, print it out on some, and this, according to this guy named P-Town Subby, I guess he's from Philadelphia and was a submariner at some point, I'm guessing, has done a whole bunch, has a little system together that gives you some plastic templates for cutting an X-Acto knife exactly for the various, because there's only a certain number of tubes and sizes that are currently out there, and a little bit of a jig to get them on there straight, and what is it going? Where's that going with that? Anyway, he has a whole system of doing that. So that's what my next month's set of tools and gadgets is going to be spent on. And so with that, so at that point, you know, I'm not volunteering a whole bunch at the moment because I got to figure out how to do it. At that point, if DPRG would like a set of pins that has their not etched in there, made, encased, deep logos, whatever else it is, we could probably make some of that happen as we go. But I've got to figure it out first. And it's, again, another kind of hammer in my toolbox. And it's like everything that all these guys will do. It looks super simple. And once you figure it out, it is super simple. But when you start, it certainly ain't. You know, there's all these little things that get in the way. And like right now, when I first started turning these pins, I was like, what the heck is going on? And I got all confused and stuff, everything. And this last Sunday, I had a little bit of a breakthrough because there's a lady that has watched me before. Last 2 Sundays, in fact. Somebody showed up at 1 o'clock, spent the afternoon with me. I walked them through making all the pins, putting them all together, and they walked with. One of them walked away with 2 of the seam rippers they were really happy with, and the other lady just sat and watched and says, "Oh yeah, I got to do this, but I got to go. I got a trip to make first, and when I come back, I'm going to have you do this with me." So I felt pretty good about being able to not only build enough skill to make what I currently am want to make, and then advance that, been able to share that with somebody else and have them do a good job, or at least what they think is a good job, you know, be happy with what they did, you know. And that kind of made me happy, you know. And the wife is very gracious to allow me. I say allow me. She says she don't allow me, and like I don't allow her to do anything. We just go and do. But to have an arrangement where I can go spend the Sunday over there doing this stuff, because I don't have I've got almost everything here in my shop, in the lab here that I have, with the exception of a lathe. And I got a tiny lathe through a thing from the marketplace. I didn't know I was getting it when I bought a bunch of stuff, and this happened to come along with it. And yeah, it can turn some stuff, but man, is it a toy. It's a toy. I can turn a pin on it, but that's about all it's going to get. And if I want to do anything serious, I'm going to have to do something else and get a bigger lathe here at the house and do something. And I hate to tell the makerspace, the lab makerspace, that if I ever make enough money where I find that making the pins have made me enough money where I buy a lathe and then I got space in here in my garage to do stuff, you know, it comes down to they have a fiber laser and a die sub machine that I don't have, and I don't currently really use either one of those things. So, you know, it's one of the reasons I got in the makerspace, because they had something I didn't, you know. I think that's the way most people get into makerspaces, because they got stuff you don't have. And usually it's supposed to be better than what I have in my house, but that's a mixed bag. That's a mixed bag currently. They're lucky I like to fix stuff at the makerspace. I go in and I spend a few hours every week fixing on things, and it's getting better. It's getting better. Again, the offer's still there. Come see me. I'll post. I promise you, this is what I promise. I'll post something up in the DPRG events, non-robot events thing, whether if I'm heading that way or not. And if you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. You know, pretty easy.
Thanks, Harold.
And you asked me to talk, and that's what, you know, you drop the time, you got to listen to the song.
Be there.
It's like, oh no, how do we shut Harold up? No. That was a good talk.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Hands on points. On pen points.
For the evening.
I didn't hear any of that.
Sorry.
Carl, Carl's muted. Okay. Pat's muted. Pat, you muted again.
Does anyone else have something to talk or question or present?
Pat, that's a dangerous question. You know what it is. You saw what just happened. Oh, and the other thing, I fully intend to have Mr. Big Head at Moon Day. whenever that happens or whatever, and anything else. I don't know if I'll bring all the robots I have, but I will bring something to show off that has some of that stuff in there.
When's Mr. Bighead going to be hooked up to some Chat GPT so that we can have him on for his own RBNV discussions?
Well, that's what the Guardian labeled Raspberry Pis for.
Okay.
Olama is the open source LLM runner, and DeepSeek is one of the LLMs that doesn't require a GPU to get its job done. And so Raspberry Pi doesn't really have a grand GPU, or nothing supports the GPU that it does have. It's all CPU bound, so it takes a little while to respond. But that's kind of the goal. That's kind of the goal, is tag him into there, and at some point say, okay, Mr. Bighead, for the next 10 minutes, birds free, respond, don't respond, whatever. Pay attention to chat, every one of them, and respond as you wish. And we'll see what happens.
Cool.
It may be fun. It may be disastrous. I don't know, but
All righty.
I should shut up now for more than 2 minutes.
Okay, guys, have we exhausted our topics for the night? Going once, going twice.
Sold.
Have a
Thanks
good
for
week,
hosting,
guys.
Pat and Mark. See you later.
Bye, all.
All right.
See you guys.
Bye.